Hi guys, today is Wellness Wednesday. Last week, Doug, we talked about the heart, right?
Yes.
So how important is to make sure that we're going to keep the most important muscle in check and we're going to do exercises for that, whatnot. Today we're going to talk about how nutritionally you can help to make sure your heart is going to be strong and healthy.
Right, so there are some major players in that we want to look at that help to stabilize different things in the heart and even help the functionality of what the heart does. You know, one of the big players that we see is calcium. Calcium plays a big part in actual movement of the cells to help contraction of the heart. We know, you know, as doctors, we have different things that we use, and although they're nutrients, they help to actually contract the heart, stabilize the heart, and one of the big things is calcium. So the reason why calcium is important is because we get it from so many different sources. Even patients who can't take lactose in, because it's a really, you know, important source of calcium, we still see calcium in other things. So nuts have calcium, leafy greens have calcium. There's certain vegetables that have calcium in them as well. So super important to make sure you supply calcium for the heart, and it helps in contractility.
So it's not just for osteoporosis, but of course calcium is great for your heart as well.
Yeah,
so the contraction is being is produced by a calcium, right? Calcium intake. However, the magnesium is going to help you, and the potassium is going to help you to relax that heart, right?
Correct. So magnesium helps stabilization of the cardiac membrane. We often see that when magnesium is depleted, we actually have a higher contractility, and so when we add magnesium in there, it calms the heart down. We don't want to go overboard in that. Obviously, magnesium can cause other issues, and so there is a fine balance of what's going on. One thing we see when magnesium is too much is loose stool, so that's why certain types of magnesium, there's so many different types out there, and you have to be careful and consult your doctor when you start using a magnesium on a regular basis, because you do want to make sure you don't overuse magnesium either, because it does have a lot of relaxation, not just the heart, through the whole body, but it helps with the heart as well.
Absolutely. I can tell you from my first experience, when once I realized that how important magnesium it is, especially when you're training with weights constantly, I had this heart murmur, then I had arrhythmia, and I had palpitations. And then, you know, I needed to actually do a stress test, and I needed to figure out there's nothing wrong, thank God, with my heart.
Yes.
But an extremely important mineral was missing from my meal plan, because constantly the weight training helped me to deplete it from my system. So once I started to introduce it, and even the cardiologist who I spoke with at that time, unfortunately didn't mention anything about the magnesium. However, I did my researches, and that's the way I found it out. Anyway, once I introduced the magnesium to my system, my heart rate started to calm down, and it became more relaxed. So I strongly suggest that I never miss a day without magnesium.
Yeah, magnesium is super important for that. And then we know magnesium helps relax the rest of the muscles of the body, including the sleep process, which helps also revitalize the heart in many different ways. You do need that rest in order to be able to revitalize the heart as well. The other thing that magnesium is really good if you have a balanced level is it actually runs and spills into your potassium. We know patients who have a low magnesium level oftentimes have a low potassium. So when we see a low potassium, oftentimes as clinicians, we check the magnesium level, the serum magnesium, because we need to make sure that the magnesium isn't the cause of the potassium being lower as well.
Absolutely. So what do you suggest? I think avocado is quite high in potassium,
yes,
right?
Yes, actually you taught me that. Yes, so potassium is really a good source from multiple different vegetables. Avocado is actually a fruit, as we learned before, and it really does help, to have enough of that, not just from the good fat thought process, but also for potassium.
Absolutely. And you think about the flowers and vegetables, when chlorophyll is going to make them green, right? So once it's green, it's showing you, reflecting you, it's quite high in the magnesium. So because of that, you should be recommended. It's recommended for you to consume as much as you can from the green leafy vegetables as much as you can.
Yeah. So absorption of chlorophyll, we worry about, are you eating too much of one thing or the other? Unless you're on specific medications, and you patients know which one those are, that you can't have green leafy vegetables unless you've been on a restriction for any reason. You should be able to urinate out any extra vitamins or any extra, toxins on both sides. So if your kidneys are healthy, you should be able to eat as much fruits and vegetables as your body can tolerate, depending on, again, under doctor supervision, what medications you're on, as well as any other disease process that affects certain vegetables. But if you're in the clear for those two things, you should be able to take in many vegetables and reap the benefits naturally. The best thing about the nature process of a lot of these vitamins is they're whole. The benefits naturally. The best thing about the nature process of a lot of these vitamins is they're whole. You're not getting them processed, and therefore your body can break them down the way they need to be broken down.
So exactly for the same reason, when something is being processed, unfortunately it's eliminating the necessary vitamins what your body is supposed to consume and utilize. So when it comes to, for example, the refined sugar, which can be found in cereals,
That's
unfortunately,
right.
it's going to help you actually not to provide you the necessary vitamins and minerals what your body is requiring, but it's going to help you to deplete, for example, the important vitamin of the B vitamin, right? Which is extremely important for the nervous system and for the muscular system as well. I noticed that once I started to introduce some B vitamins, immediately increased my energy, and of course, I became calmer, more energetic, whatnot.
Right. So B vitamins work interestingly. I was just telling Arnold, there is a subset of patients that we see elevation of certain factors in their body because of depletion of B vitamins that causes them to have a propensity for even things such as clots. So I have seen with certain, of these patients that when you give them the B vitamins, it helps as a preventive measure. Now, you'll never know if it actually keeps them from having those. You can't say that, but you can say as a preventive measure, it is a good idea to specifically have some of those B vitamins in there to reduce that propensity for clots, in the body. And that's super important in the cardiovascular system. So B vitamins are super important. We talked about potassium, magnesium, calcium, and then vitamin E. Vitamin E is really great to stabilize as well the cardiac
Helps carrying the oxygen, right?
And carries the oxygen, yeah. So it's really important. We do have to be careful with the amount. 2,000, I think I use, is what we are suggested, not to go over that.
Right.
And some patients say, oh, it's great for my hair, skin, nails, I want to take more E, but you got to be careful because that is a fat-soluble vitamin. It can go up fairly quickly, so you do need to make sure you don't take too much of that unnecessarily. And the best way, again, is from the natural sources.
And it's the same thing with the K vitamins, K1, particularly red, or K2, it's
K2.
even better but also then when you utilize K2, it helps you with clotting, or you want to make sure you're going to utilize D3 with that as well.
Correct.
So, and for better absorption, isn't it correct?
Right, so our fatty absorbed vitamins such as K, A,